Um, Hello to all our readers and viewers for the Boston Poetry Marathon 2020. I'm Bridget Eileen. I'll be your MC for the evening 8 o'clock hour. Your technical host for the hour is Xtina Strong. If you want to say hello. Oh, you're muted. Okay. Thanks, Xtina. And our organizers for this year are, for the Boston Poetry Marathon Online for 2020, are Christina Liu and Xtina Strong, Suzanne Mercury, and myself, Bridget Eileen. Thank you also, thank you to my co-organizers, and thank you also to our volunteers. One of our volunteers is in this chat right now, Tom Daley. Thank you so much. As well as Tim Gager, Gilmore Tamney, Joe Elliott, Douglas Rothschild, and especially to Chad Parento, who's helping as a technical assistant to Carol Weston in the last hour. And he's also going to be a tech host. We are streaming live to our Facebook page at Boston Poetry Marathon, our Twitter via Periscope at Bos Poetry Mara, and live on our YouTube channel. For links to these broadcasts, go to bostonpoetrymarathon.wordpress.com/watch. This year's Boston Poetry Marathon is also a fundraiser for local organizations that work for racial justice in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. Donations will go to Sistify Rhode Island and the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. Admission to the Boston Poetry Marathon is free, but a $10 or more donation is recommended and appreciated. Go to bostonpoetrymarathon.wordpress.com/donate for more information. Go to the pinned posts on our bios on social media for these links as well. Though we can't be together in person for these readings and the breaks in between, we encourage all our participants and viewers to share selfies, screenshots, old photos, memories, and comments on our social media. Please use hashtag Boston Poetry Marathon. Tag us at Boston Poetry Marathon on Instagram and Facebook, and Bos Poetry Mara on Twitter. As a reminder to our readers, you only have 5 minutes. Oh, sorry, you only have 8 minutes tonight, and your 8 minutes starts as soon as you begin speaking. So any intros to poems or anything like that is part of your 8-minute reading. I will be timing the readings. Oh, oops. I gotta set that up. I'm like the worst at timing because it doesn't go well with undiagnosed ADD. Anyway, I'll be timing the readings. Readers, please make sure your chat window is open right now. And so that you can see the chat window. When you have 1 minute left, I'll write 1 minute in the chat. When you have 30 seconds, I'll write 30 seconds. At 5 minutes, 8 minutes, I'll have to interrupt you and introduce the next reader. If you finish before the 8 minutes, I'll thank you and then introduce the next reader. Readers, if your connection is bad during your reading, I will interrupt to let you know. Please follow the steps in the email you were sent, and we'll move on to the next reader if we have a connection problem with the current reader. Please make sure your camera is directed at your entire face, especially your mouth. And please also make sure that you are well lit. Every time I say it, I giggle because it has a double meaning. Anyway, I'm going to introduce the readers of the hour right now, so please unmute yourself. And reader, when I say your name, please give a short greeting so we can have a sound check. So readers of the hour, adding, oh, he was there, now he's gone. Darn. Leanne Brown. Oh, Tony, you need to unmute yourself. Yep, there you go. Leanne Brown. Let's see how we can hear you. Great. Okay, good. We can hear you well. Tony Torn.
Hi.
Hi. Jim, unmute yourself so that we can hear you.
Hey ho, here I am.
Looking good. Joanna Fuhrman.
Hi.
Hi, Joanna. Tom Daley.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. David Kirschenbaum.
Hello.
Hi. Looking good. All right. Looking good, sounding good. So that's good. Now, and oh, Jim, can we hear you? Yeah, can you talk so that we can hear you? Unmute yourself and talk so we can hear you, just to make sure it's okay.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, can you unmute yourself, Jim, and just say
Hello, I don't know if you guys can hear me.
We can hear you just fine. So that's good. So when, what I'll do is, okay. What I'll do is, I'll have, do you want to go now, Jim, or do you want to wait to the end?
It's up to you guys, whatever works.
All right. I think we'll go with you right now since you got a signal that's going okay. So if everyone else could mute themselves, and we'll have our first reader of the hour who's coming back because wasn't able to. And that will be Jim. Early, go for it.
Hey guys, sorry about the technical difficulties. I'm still here on the PATH train, so give me 1 second. You can take it out of my 8 minutes. I think I only have 4 minutes of stuff. Sorry about the phone problems. I don't remember how I first heard about the Boston Poetry Marathon or the Alternative Poetry Festival or whatever it was called the first year at the Blacksmith House in Harvard Square, coordinated by Aaron Kiley and Sean Cole. I don't remember what year that was. I'm pretty sure that was the first time I met Aaron Kiley, Sean Cole, Brendan Lorber, Douglas Rothschild, Chris Stroffolino, and countless others. Basically, all the poets I know. I remember the Blacksmith House was hot as hell. They had like no AC, but like one fan that was just spinning the hot all the way around. It was dark too. Dan Bouchard wrote the definitive account of the first Boston Poetry Marathon weekend. It was posted at the Buffalo List. I know Dan was one of the readers, but I wasn't able to hear his piece. But if you get a chance, please check it out. It's really worth your reading because I think it captures the spirit of the whole thing. I remember there was a big party on Saturday night of the first marathon. I remember someone took a photo of me with Angie Malenko, Maggie Zarowski, and Pragita Sharma on a sleigh bed, but I don't remember what happened to that photo. I remember the weekend being exhausting and at times infuriating, but ultimately inspiring, invigorating. I'm pretty sure the next few years we're in Kenmore Square at the Boston School of Arts, where Ruth Lepson worked and helped get the room. And then it was like a Boston Marathon. I don't remember, but I think the second year had a set that included Robert Creeley, Forrest Gander, Leanne Brown, Angie Malenko, John Wieners, and Garrett Lansing. I remember Robert Creeley was going to leave because it was running so far behind. I don't remember, but I think it was the first time I heard Brenda Coltast read. I remember John Wieners said he was glad Garrett Lansing was doing so well. I somehow got involved this following year as an organizer. Aaron Kiley had moved to New York. I don't remember, but I think that was the year that Gina Myers came from the middle of Michigan to read her Pit Kids and Lot Kids poem, which I still think is the best poem I ever heard at one of the Boston Poetry Marathons. I don't know if it exists, though. It was an amazing poem. Hopefully, one of these days when we have the collected works of Gina Myers, you can read that again. I think that was the first year they called it the Boston Poetry Marathon. Donna Della Perriere and Joseph Lease organized it too. I don't remember if that was the year I read In the Box. It was one year me and Douglas found a display box in the Boston School of Art. And I was like, hey, I should read in this display case. And Douglas was like, yeah, you should. We carried it up the stairs and he's like, I was like, maybe this is a bad idea, Doug. And he's like, you have to get in the box. And I'm like, I think this is going to be bad, Doug. And he's like, no, you have to get in the box. Sean Cole helped with the microphone and Doug laid my poems, some of the sonnets, onto the plexiglass, which was fogged from my breath. It was hard to breathe in the box. I thought I was going to die in the box that night. I think we did 2 or 3 marathons there. I did one in the winter at Wordsworth and another one in the spring in the room at MIT. I remember Bill Corby used to always give me a hard time about the marathon. He was always in Vermont when we did them. He might have been the first one to call it the Poultry Massacre. I moved to New York, and one day me and David Kirschenbaum were sitting around, and I was like, we should go to a baseball game in Philadelphia. And David's like, yeah, we should go to a baseball game in Philadelphia. We should also host a poetry marathon in Philadelphia. And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. But that one fell apart at the last minute. So instead, me and David and John Maroney, Aaron Teeger, Nick Carr, we put one on in Inman Square at Outpost, whatever that place is cool. We did
Hey,
it
I'm
there
well.
for a long time.
How are
We used
you?
to change the name of the thing every year to try to get covered in the Boston Globe, depending on what was going on in the world. One year it was the Boston Tea Party, and another year it was the Poetry World Cup. I don't remember if I painted the live poetry fresh killed painting that year, but it was a good Inman Square joke. Me and Ben would stay in the Hotel Commander in Harvard Square. I don't remember what one year we ran a little behind because the venue was filled with nudists on Sunday morning. We used to have an hour that was always like Garrett Lansing, Fannie Howe, Joe Torra, Carol Weston, Michael Franco, Jim Dunn on Sunday. We used to give poets 8 minutes to read, ask them not to thank us from the podium, didn't give anybody an intro, didn't do bios, so we could keep the thing moving. Mitch Manning and Audrey Mardovich helped organize a few of them too. The last thing I remember about the Boston Poetry Marathon was Abigail Cook reading her poems one year. She was maybe 8, but her poems were way better than mine. Somehow she ended up sitting on my shoulders, and Amanda maybe took a photo of that, but I don't remember what happened to the photo. There was a lot of work to organize, invite all the poets, make the schedule, make it all over again. When everybody canceled at the last minute, that was kind of a hassle. Things I miss about the Boston Poetry Marathon. Sean Cole's laugh, which other people have mentioned. It's a great laugh. It should be bottled and sold in stores. Me and Douglas would go to like the 7-Eleven and just trash the place and have a good time. That was pretty fun. And I thought Douglas had gone to every year of the Boston Poetry Massacre. I thought he was maybe the only one, but apparently there was at least one year he didn't come, and Mark Lamoureux had to be Douglas, and that actually worked too. I mean, hanging out with Douglas is one of my favorite things about going to the Boston Poetry Marathon. Saying hi to Lori Levesky for like 10 seconds every 5 years is one of my favorite things about the Boston Poetry Marathon. I think Amanda or James said something about how Boston's a great town to kind of be a poet and sit in your house and read books. And so getting out every once in a while and seeing a bunch of people that you really love and respect and just hang out with is really amazing and what it's all about. I miss feeling burnt out and close to death and infuriated by poetry, but also wanting to go home and write new poems with all the new stolen lines I'd gotten at the Boston Poetry Marathon. Hanging out with Jim Dunn, singing Ween songs. Those are all the things I miss about the Boston Poetry Marathon, but I'm glad everybody was able to be here on Zoom, and thank you guys for all your hard work. Appreciate it. Sorry for being late.
Thank you so much, Jim. That was really good. I loved it. It was funny and touching and sweet and lots of good memories. I appreciate that. Okay, so now we'll go back to, and I'm glad that you were able to hop on, even though it's a different hour. So good. I knew it would be good. I knew we'd need to hear all this. So we did this special night because we can't be together in person, and it is one of the best things about the Boston Poetry Marathon is being together in person. So we figured it's Friday night special where we talked about the times where we were allowed to be around each other is a distant second, but at least something. So next up, we have, in tribute to Kevin Killian, who passed away this year, we have Tony Torn and Leanne Brown.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tony.
Eileen.
So shout out to everybody who loves Kevin as much as we do. Oh, I can't hear you now. Can you say something, Leanne? I'm not hearing you. Okay, so Leanne and I are going to play a video of a production that we did of Kevin's play, The Lenticular. And it was done as part of the Boog Festival last fall. So thanks to William Considine, who curated the evening, and David Kirschenbaum, of course, the boogiest of the Boogs. The cast includes Rolls Andre as Dr. Tim, Leanne Brown as Midge the Caterer, Shiv Mirabito as Cabin Car Key, Aliana Nicole as Greta, the Vengeful Nurse, and Alexa Smith as Allison, the Lenticular Fanatic. This video was filmed by Mitch Korber. And the story so far, we're going to be coming in about halfway through. Cabin Car Key is wondering if he can reconcile with his old fiancée, Allison, who's become obsessed with lenticular eyeglasses. But her sister, Greta, the nurse, is upset because Midge the Caterer has cooked all of her beloved goldfish. Okay, let me share the screen.
Miss Greta, we're going to start laying down the food in a minute. I hope you're hungry. Who's this?
I'm Cabin Karki. Don't bother repronouncing my name. Just remember it's like a little log cabin, and under the mat you'll find my car key.
Well, I'm Midge of Midge's Digestibles. May I give you my card?
But I would rather you let me give my heart to serve with love.
Well, Miss Court, that mural in your dinette, it kind of frightens me. I walk in one door and I see a field of African veldt, and then I come to the pantry and it's like a flowery apron on an amateur cook. You know, all violets, no rigor.
When we used to date, Allison was all about grilling the waitstaff. Is this produce raw? It was mortifying, and I see she hasn't changed.
Well, while we wait for the final guest, won't you try some nibbles? This is goldfish amandine, raised locally. Indeed, within 8 feet of the eat site.
I'll have to check my own heart rate after I scream.
Tino Seagal, 2011.
Yes, think of Allison's work as performance art of a sort. You stood in line for 8 hours at the Met to watch Alexander McQueen fit Marina Abramovich. This you get every day, no waiting.
No goldfish for me. Thanks, Midge. Gee, it's like a Gershwin tune.
Well, Miss Allison has ordered the Thayer Abbott special. Camouflage birds. From above, they're blue to match the sky. For below, nature gives them white underbellies, so their enemies think that there's snow and burrow.
I said no, thank you.
Think of penguins.
Midge, dear, let's meet again at the eat site.
Who's this? Is this the famous Dr. Tim I've heard so much about?
Allison, don't be so disconnected. You were my fiance. You know I'm no doctor. You've known me since RISD, where we worked with Dale Chihuly.
Please, Allison, relax. Let this be the one occasion where you don't whip out your LQ test with the drop of a napkin ring.
That's okay, Greta. Allison, dear, try it on me. I love taking tests. It puts me firmly on the side of the federal.
Oh, dear.
Now, So, doctor, peer through these lenses and tell me what you see on my dining room wall.
A peacock's tail?
It's actually only more lenses, infinitely small. Although I'm trying to enlarge them by one method or another.
She thought she might have found a new size of lenticule on the golden backs of my little fish.
Call this a lenticular print. It may look like a peacock feather to you, Dr. Tim, but it's really only superb printing by my factory elves.
Now run over to the other side and see what appears.
Now run over to the other side. Stealing my thunder, sister mine.
I'm sorry.
Now, reapply these binoculars to your eyes, Dr. Tim, and turn them to focus into the room on the far side of the threshold. What appears?
Hastily, I see what looks like a gravestone in an autumn cemetery.
Poor little innocent fish sacrificed to lenticular science.
A graveyard in old Nepal, in my honest opinion.
What the public came to love about the lenticular was its way of emblematizing the loss of the past to the present, or the present to the future.
It makes time pass so quickly. A boon to the board. One step and you're in the grid of life, proud as a peacock. But blink and well, you're dead.
Not literally!
The lenticular is death, but only the sort of death Masumi, echoing Michel Foucault, calls incorporeal materialism. And step back to where you were, or shut your left eye, and the grave disappears, and you're back to life, or the next thing to it. You're back in the past recaptured, the future negated. Proust would have loved it, and in his honor, Midge is now passing out some delectable goldfish almondine.
Half a bow!
Is it really about the passage from death to life?
And back again.
Yes, Cher had a sizable hit with that Masumian delight. If I could turn back time. Remember, Allison? It was going to be our first dance as newlyweds. Cher stood atop an enormous battleship and made the world listen to itself. The tortoise nearly mated the hare.
I think I remember, Dr. Tim.
I'm Dr. Tim. Are there two of us?
I'm Cabin, and this is Allison, Greta's little sister. She looks sweet and innocent, doesn't she, Doctor? But believe me, she's Satan with a strap on. As I'm sure you've heard.
How do you do, Miss Course? Now, you have an interest in things lenticular, or so I hear from your charming sister.
Hello, doctor.
Administer your LQ test, Allison, or should I say Dolores, Our Lady of Pain. A Swinburne touch to the lenticular, so I've always thought, since its adoption by medical sciences in the 1950s. Could you hurt me, sweet lips, though I hurt you? Men touch them and change in a trice. The lilies and languors of virtue, for the raptures and roses of vice.
Finally, one who understands. As a little girl, I was drawn to the flame of the candle rather than its wick. Daddy gave me a set of tiny cards, no bigger than your mandible, Doctor. And each one depicted a scene from nature. In one, a green tree on the hill. Tuck it up a notch, and the leaves turned red. Tuck it up another notch, and the tree is shining white with cold.
That was my card, sister. Mine. Yours was the lighthouse.
In a second card, a lighthouse stood wet and dark on a mossy cliff. But when I spun the card around my head, beams of light burst out of its lens, under its dome, circling the dark, bloody sea below.
That was my heart, not the sea.
My nose tells me dinner's ready in the next room. Shall I see what's cooking?
I've convoked this dinner to show off my newest work of art. That mural which performs life and death is lovely, but it's very 2008. My elves have been slaving day and night, weaving a carpet made of lenticules. You'll feel like you're walking on a cloud, and you will be. And the next step, you'll be greeted by the hounds of hell.
Satan with a strap on, to be sure.
Allison, where's Greta?
Oh, have you checked the nurse's station? Oh, that old-fashioned white she wears, the no color of a movie screen. No wonder all you men prefer me, for I come in colors everywhere. Do you know this poem, which I sort of adapted for my own style sense? When as in silks my lensic self goes, then methinks how sweet and flows the liquefaction of my clothes. Next, when I cast mine eyes and see that brave vibration each way free, oh, how that glittering taketh me!
Do I hear raised voices from the pantry?
Somehow, Greta exited without being seen.
And you doubted the power of my purposive lenticular. I'm sorry I killed your fish!
They were my heart. They were not fish. They were the lenses of my youth as a girl.
Maybe doubted is the wrong word. I've never doubted per se, but when we were an item, Allison, you used to exaggerate your influence in world affairs.
Mistress Allison, do you ever see clients alone? I have a bit of an extraction problem your arts might assuage.
Remember when you said you met J.D. Salinger? In where was it, dear? Somewhere doomy like New Hampshire. And you talked him into putting those brassy stripes on the corners of his books?
Brassy? I think not. Well, they did the trick, didn't they? Or Jerry, the lenticular, bounces us back and forth from the illuminations that sometimes rattle our lives, turning us into quiz kids, and then back into the doldrums of the mundane, where we realize wisdom is but a fleeting thing. We really are as phony as those squares we despise.
Jerry?
Well, that is the name his intimates used to bark out erotic orders to him with, while tightly encased in black vinyl, as he lay moaning on the damp floor of his homely Buddhist dungeon basement. Jerry, you piece of shit! Began many perorations.
My word, Miss Court, you are a firework. Come on, show me what you're worth.
There was the real world, Allison, and then there was the world you took from me.
Oh, well, let that mirror do. Angle it so we can see into my newly carpeted dining room.
Dr. Tim, do something! The poor girl's on the edge of shock.
I'll be fine. Let's hold the mirror up to the dialectic, shall we?
How ghastly! Isn't she that catering girl? So keen to pass on her card?
Perhaps. Blow out the candles, Greta!
My eyes are playing tricks on me! Is that Midge? Or is it a whole system of values dead on the rug?
It is not one person who ruined our lives, but a whole nexus of market demands.
By Jove, I think it's capitalism.
Thank you so much for sharing that as part of your segment in tribute to Kevin Killian, Leanne Brown, and Tony Torn. That was
I just want to
great.
say I think Kevin Killian is our Oscar Wilde. So let's just keep producing his plays, reading his books, and spreading the legend.
Great, thank you so much. Next up is Jim Dunn. Don't forget to unmute yourself, Jim.
Thank you, Bridget. That's great. Thank you very much. I might reiterate something said, and my steel trap memory might have a trap door in it, but here we go. The first conference in Cambridge at the Blacksmith House. The room was small and the elements were a factor. The heat and the humidity surrounded us like the cascade of words, but it was the company of poets that kept us afloat. Damon Krakowski, Drew Gardner, Joseph Leese, Fanny Howe. I see Garrett and Joe Tor read together for the first time on Saturday, along with others, Christine Prevalier, Lisa Jarneau, Louis Warsh. I remember sitting on a bench with Naomi Yang on Brattle Street in the evening cool of the summer night, covered in sweat, holding a signed copy of Damon's book talking about Exact Change, Galaxy 500, and their current band. The sheer enthusiasm of Aaron Kiley and Sean Cole, Sean recording it all, letting out blasts of gleeful laughter throughout the readings. The after party at Michael Franco's house, where the unknown poets got to mingle with the well-known and the super unknown. Dan Bouchard being pulled over by the police with Doug Rothschild in the trunk and getting away with it. The reading upstairs at Mass Art Institute in Kenmore Square, just beyond the Citgo sign, another place of torrid heat, concrete floors, and a constant whirling fan offering no relief. John Wieners and I had a pre-reading dinner at the Daley House. Younger poets approaching John with awe and wonder as he ate his hamburger. Is that really you? Yes, it is me. I remember John crossing Beacon Street heading to his reading as a car came barreling over the hill, nearly hitting us. John trying to run with his bag draped over his shoulder and a lit cool cigarette between his fingers. Jim Behrle and a group of poets yelling for us to watch out as the car was screaming by us. Don't get John killed before his reading. He's up next. John turned to me with a smirk. Oh, that was close, Jimmy. John's reading a little shaky and whispered at times, but filled with moments of pure, naked grace. Reading Friday night at the Menard Gallery, Joe Tora, Bill Corbett, Eileen Miles, Dorothy Lasky and I sitting on the stoop, hooting and hollering with her dog as the reading blazed on. 88 readers, 8 minutes each in the physics classroom at MIT, where the 8 minutes rule maybe originated. Readers, readers, readers who made their 8 minutes last for 8 hours. Readers who made 8 seconds eternal. The Sunday readings at the Outpost 186 like a family Sunday service. Riding into town with the Cooks, their family van with Amanda, James, their children, and Garrett. Sunday readings were anticlimactic, but shined gloriously in their own time and room. Many Saturday poets left town, and the Boston poets remained. A picture of the elders in the front row, Garrett Lansing, Ellie Yarden, Carol Weston, John Galloway, listening with the wisdom of their accumulated grace. Garrett always reading in the light, one in the company of the light. The Cook kids and Carol purifying the air with their sweet syllables from God. Frank Spignese appearing out of nowhere from Tokyo to bring us to tears. In 2000, I read with my head completely shaved, done on a lunchtime on a whim at the campus barbershop at BU. Between readings, Leanne Brown was making a movie and filmed me reading one line of poetry, looking like Charles Manson. Not sure if I ever made the final cut. During a talk on Harry Crosby, as I was reading his poem, Target of Disgust, to a packed Sunday crowd at Outpost 186, as my son Gavin stood behind me, whacking me with a hurling stick Jim Behrle had given him with the instructions, if your dad goes over 8 minutes, start whacking. And he did with great vigor. I once drove from Philly in 5 hours to make it in time to read on a Sunday. I read a long-winded poem in the vein of Dylan's thoughts on Woody Guthrie. It was rambling, but it meant a lot to me. As I was the last reader, everyone was filing out. Ben Watkins, Boston photographer, artist, and friend of many Boston poets, came up and shook my hand and, "Hey, Jim, I really dig your poetry." And that meant the world to me. So I agree with Jimmy. It's about friendship and the Cooks and Garrett. And we all miss Garrett and John Wieners. And this is crazy. I'm going to give this to Aaron. In John's papers that I have, this is the letter that Aaron sent to John on 3/26/99, asking him to participate in the second one. You can't see it. I would love to read it to you, but it's Aaron's great letter to John Wieners to get him to read. And it must have worked because John did read that year. And thinking of John and thinking of Robert Creeley, a postcard to Creeley telling him how John was doing. Hello from springtime. Springtime in the Landmark building across the street from friendly Fenway, where I park my bones from morning till morning. I thought of you when I drove through West Acton, coming home from Belchertown after an all-night frosting. The saints preserve us. Harness racing in Saratoga is exciting. The horses wear skirts to prevent full gallops. My lucky horse was Danzig, horse number 6. The natural spring soothes secret injuries with healing bubbles. I haven't got the faintest idea. Jack Wieners went down to the Stop and Shop to gather his humble groceries, passing out Percogesic pills to people he felt should have them. Smoking an afternoon cigarette in the sun outside Brigham's, hand on his hip, bag draped over his wrist, gray hair pulled back into a ponytail, held by a rubber band, blue pinstripe shirt, belt too long, folded over in loops, dockers and penny loafers, dusty and faded. Postcards are on their way in the mail from the lighthouse in Cape May. The circular light in the encompassing night blinks at the end of New Jersey. Hawks take their flight over Sunset Boulevard. Sparrows scatter like feathered confetti. The lip of the sun, or is it the lid of the sun? Whichever, the day kisses and closes. And this one is from my friend Garrett. And I would read this a lot when he was in the audience, and hopefully he is today. Well-wishers, wishing wells. The coin falls eternally. No splash can match the scream a quarter makes when it is tossed by the wanting hand. The black stillness is a quiet, dark mirror reflecting the silent wishes long forgotten. A girl with a garland in her hair kneels fawn-like beside the stone well, picking flowers for her crown. She came to me in an envelope at the Edgar Cayce Center in Virginia Beach in a clairvoyancy class. I stumbled across her in my mind as a Puritan resting beside a butter churner. To coin a Hollywood phrase, with a small dog licking your face, I wish you all the time. Wishing wells. Lighthouse eyes shine New York City neon winter blue. A monk among us with strange invocations who robed us in words. Sitting on the Senator's Louisburg Square doorstep on Mount Hordem, sharing stolen chocolate-covered secrets from Starbucks. The downward tree grows earthly in your heavenly hands. Regarding the city from the grand windows of the brick Sears Tower, the Charles River ribboned under the Smoot and Longfellow. Swimming back from Kettle Island, I caught a tidy glimpse of you waving from Magnolia Beach. On the 4th of July, as holiday boaters aim recklessly for my unseen bobbing head, floating on the sea. You carry the secret of the fisherman and his catch, the sinking boat and the sea, the land and its pinings in the palm of your soul. And I got 2 short ones and then I'm out. This one is for my friend Carol. I read this to her while she was laid up with a broken hip recently, and it's a short one for Carol Weston. Ethereal pearls. Winsome, lonesome, heavy days bring light sorrow. What to make of it? A string of words, invisible pearls, orbs of hollow delight. And this is the last one I shall read. It is called There, There. When I told Bob Creeley that John had died, he said this: well, Jim, he's not there. Hard to think that he's not. Obviously, he is, and where else? And that was the greatest thing anyone's ever said to me. There, there. He's not there. Hard to think that he's not. Obviously, he is, and where else? Always here in so many ways, but not in the obvious. Here, then, there, now. Is there anywhere out there? There, there, in a better place than his apartment. But he loved it there like no place I know. Thank you, organizers. Thank you, everyone. And thanks for another beautiful Boston Poetry Marathon.
Okay. So thanks for making me cry while I have to do MC duties.
Did I do it in 8 minutes?
I think my makeup. So I'm just kidding. That was both beautiful and amazing and funny and touching and obviously a little sad too. And I loved all of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, gotta move on because I can't even speak right now. Joanna Fuhrman, you are up next.
Hi. So I'm gonna start. Am I unmuted? Yeah. I'm gonna start by just talking about why I'm reading Friday night, even though I'm a New Yorker and not a Boston person. So in 2003, Joseph and Donna were curating, but even though Jim forgot, I was helping them curate. I was the co-curator. Jim was giving me a funny expression. But yeah, it was the same year that he was in the glass coffin. But back then, which was like 17 years ago, I was a quote unquote younger poet. And they wanted me to like bring in some younger poets from New York or from wherever. And back then, younger poets were like Maggie Nelson and Aaron Coonan and Tanya Larkin. And now it's funny because now I'm, the late middle-aged poet. But I was going to talk about Jim and his coffin, but I think that's already been said. So I'm going to just read some poems. All right, I'm just going to read 3 poems. Whiskers. Bob's pandemic beard is the new member of our household. He pets it as if there were a kitten crawling across his chin. I say, how come you can have a beard cat, but you won't let me get a real cat? A beard cat is no use as a cat. It doesn't jump for the ragged tips of peacock feathers, doesn't wake me up with its wet nose, doesn't crawl on my chest and purr when I hear from my dad that my mom in the Florida hospital isn't getting better. The beard cat doesn't even meow or growl or pounce at crows at the window. As I pout, the beard cat jumps off Bob's face and swan dives into what I imagine is a moment in our post-COVID future. A silver-lit evening where we are munching on shrimp tacos under the multicolored garlands of a Mexican cafe in Mexico, perhaps? Or where we are huddling with tourists, admiring Sophie Tauber Arp's dancing Dada dolls at the new MoMA. As we worry about everything, all the past and future, deaths ricocheting off the decapitated statues of disjointed piazzas, all the lost possibilities of lips raising lips, the missed handshakes and hugs free falling into intergalactic tunnels. The beard cat is pirouetting on the rips in time between now and then. It weaves a flag out of the threads it has pulled from continuity, tries to surrender to a dragon with its flame blistering the stratosphere. Each night, the beard cat rips the walls off our bedroom, replacing them with a mass of undulating orange paws. Dear beard cat, please forgive me for not loving you enough when all you were trying to do was mark time, to provide a little salt and pepper colored hairtainment to a confined middle-aged couple. When you are finally ready to say goodbye, promise you'll allow me to stroke your pale tendrils one last time. Let me decorate your rough fur with marigolds. Okay, 2 more. The cat we don't own. I figure if I keep writing poems about cats, I'll eventually get one. Oh, and the title's in jam, so I'll say it again. The cat we don't own sleeps on my chest and doesn't meow. Instead, it murmurs in the voice of my 81-year-old mother who is stuck in a COVID-infested cardiac hospital thousands of miles away. Okay, I admit it's not my mom's actual voice. The sound the animal makes is part growl, part purr, part metallic laugh. It's not really a cat either. It's half cat, half miniature rhino. When I dream, the chimera enters my eye holes and crawls around, searching for a subway car with wings so we can fly together over the veins of highways and splotchy landfills. As my husband turns away, pulling the blanket towards him, I hold the knot cat to my chest, and I can hear my mother's heart under the animal's thick black fur. It's beating too fast, too irregular. So I know that it wants to escape its animal body, wants to pound its feet in blood-red flamenco shoes, wants to cry out, to borrow the sun's bullhorn, to scream at anyone who'll listen. Okay, this is the last. To a broken window or a future self from quarantine, July 2020. I used to think all poetry was written for a better version of myself. I'd imagine her walking home beside the moon, riding its fuchsia triangle through Newkirk Plaza, past children in their best white for Eid, playfully chasing each other in circles. The other me was full of Joanna-ness, a quality often translated as the ability to be 1,000% herself without having the faintest idea who this person was or is, or the nexus where wild hair meets wild joking meets octopi, like feeling might begin or end. Now, I think Joanna-ness might be something less like an ocean in a bathtub and more like a banal dream, the kind where you are shopping for a blender at a department store, but when you wake up, all you can remember about the dream is the price of the object you forgot to buy. Instead of writing to my better self, I need to start writing to my future self. Imagine who I'll be when all my hair is gray, my parents dead, the books I've written out of print. Will future Joanna still see her childhood poems circling the ether like drunk angels, crashing their cloudmobiles into post-literature? Or will their metaphors be forgotten, recycled into advertisements for security systems? Will future Joanna still love strong iced coffee, installation art, and gardenias? Or will she be the kind of woman who spends all day in the streets trying to dig up a Brooklyn that's already lost? Oh, so that's it for the poems, but I wanted to say one more thing I forgot to say, which was one of the other great memories of that year that I curated was having David Shapiro hold court at Pizzeria Uno. So I just wanted to bring up that memory. But on that note, were you there, Christina? It was awesome. Anyway, so yeah, thank you so much for hosting. And also this space is a lot more comfortable than the Outpost, which was too hot.
That's true. Thank you so much, Joanna. And our next reader is Tom Daley.
All right, well, first of all, thanks a million to Bridget, Eileen, and Suzanne, Mercury, and the other organizers. You have no idea how much work Bridget Eileen has put into this enterprise. She's done a great job. So I am going to have a little slideshow of some jottings that I've done over the years of the marathon. I do calligraphy and I sit there and I sort of pull words out of the air and write them down. So this is about 3 minutes worth of 2016, 2017, and 2018. Nobody was excluded for any reason. I couldn't include everybody. I don't know why, but Jim Behrle does not get into this, but he certainly should. So I'm gonna share the screen and play this video for about 3 minutes, and then I'll read a couple poems. All right, well, there we are. So, okay, I'm just going to read a couple of poems because the evening is getting late here. So this is called Broadside from Ipswich Bay, #1. I am stirring into my strange sweetness like a scribbler absent a template. What is the point of creation when all will be so utterly transformed, lost at least at the level of recognition? And it is recognition we strain towards, some sense that the wave we initiate breaks into whitecaps around another's hips, some sense that the cold water we open our eyes into off Ipswich Bay will clear the way to the children now dead in all but a curious vessel in the bloodstream of the brain. Write small letters, urged the teacher, and here we are, filling the tiny squares, all our discipline distracted by the residue of insomnia. What are the messages? The sages might demand, but we prefer to allow the answer to remain impure, murky as the sheen on the skin of the shark with its now wavering, now stiffening, approaching dorsal fin. And this is the second and last poem I'm going to read. It's called The Tiny Libretto of Dreams. The tiny libretto of dreams stirred to ink by the alcohol twinge of the bottle of Pelican 4001. Tenements, the revenge of the tenements, in a town where 33% of a random sample tested yes. Can we survive the winter on pickles and tomato relish and what the potato beetle or the powdery mildew has relinquished? Will the barricades veer over to our block? Will the pillagers trample the rabbit-resistant cat mint? Will the milk the dairy farmers dumped or the milk cows they culled alarm the obituaries of the secretaries of agriculture? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tom. That was fantastic. I absolutely loved those calligraphies. And we're going to need to get that video, that slideshow, and put it somewhere in the archives of the Boston Poetry Marathon somewhere, because that was fantastic. Up next is one-time organizer and organizer of Boot, David Kirschenbaum. Thanks, David.
Hey everybody, how you doing? The ladies were talking about wanting some history on the festival, so I thought I would break out this instant zine that I put out from the first festival, Jiffy Food, from
Sorry
1998.
to interrupt you, David. There's a slight problem with your audio. It's just a little bit fuzzy. So let's just try and adjust it. Can you get a little closer to your microphone? And
how's that?
That's great. So if you could, can you keep it like that? And do your...
I can.
Okay, great, perfect. All right, thank you.
All right, hey everybody. So the ladies were talking about wanting us to talk about history tonight, so I thought I would break out my instant zine that I put out for the first festival in 1998. I'm gonna just read my edit and then read some of the poems from it.
I'm so sorry,
here, my editorial.
David. Sorry to interrupt you again, but there is a slight audio audio problem still. Can you go to a different spot so it might be a little clearer?
Hold on, I'm gonna.
All right, and just keep talking so we can test it out and see how things go.
All right, how is it? I'm walking around. Let me go somewhere else in my apartment here.
Okay. Give us some audio so that we can just hear you. Sorry, everybody, stand by. So can you talk, David, so we can just hear how the audio quality is? David?
Yep, I'm right here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello.
I can hear you, and it's still a little fuzzy. So just why don't you keep it real close to you and make sure that the whatever device you're using doesn't move. Let's try that, okay?
Okay.
Yep. All right, go ahead.
All right, great. All right, so no, I was just saying the ladies were talking about they wanted some history for the festival. So I thought I would read from my instant zine that I put out for the first festival in '98. Came down to the festival when I started on Friday, and by Sunday had a zine out with work from a whole bunch of people to part in the festival. So I'm gonna read my edit and then a few of the poems from the readers.
David.
So we have
David, I'm
No, good.
sorry to bother you. Why don't we try and get you into the next hour? Because there's the audio issue keeps happening, and we'll try and set you up to the next hour. So can you go into I'll email you the link to the next hour's meeting credentials, okay? And we'll have you go in there. All right. All right.
David,
Sorry
do you
about
have
that.
headphones?
I don't.
Okay. Actually,
You
so
don't? Okay,
let's we'll go ahead and end this hour. Thank you so much to Leanne Brown, Tony Torn, Jim Dunn, Joanna Fuhrman, Tom Daley, and Jim Behrle. We're gonna pick up with the next hour with Andrew K. Peterson, Jordan Davis, Maria Damon, Mark Lamoureux, Aaron Kiley, Douglas Rothschild, and David Kirschenbaum once we get him set up with a good audio feed. Thank you so much for everyone. Really, really short break, and we're going to be starting the next hour really shortly. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.